Yo, Mr. Ringwalk himself, how are we out here doing tunnel cam interviews now? We are doing tunnel cams. He's gonna call every corner of the internet. That's the move. He used to be shrink-wrapped to her hip. Every single hallway. Damn. Not because she can't be trusted, nah. Not because she's out here doing anything reckless, none of that. But because he was clocking every athlete with a jawline, every rapper with a buzz, every executive with a business card, every man with a clean fade and a paycheck. He should have put that woman at the front of the line. Cue the man who forgot how a line works. Cue the man they used to call the underdog. Cue William himself. Stop the tape. Rewind it. Play it again in slow motion. Because what you just watched is not a walkout. What you just watched is a hostage video with a pay-per-view logo slapped on it. Claressa Shields, the greatest woman of all time in the ring, the two-time Olympic gold medalist, the undisputed champion in 3 separate weight classes, the greatest of her generation, is out here trending for the exact wrong reason. And the man attached to her name is the reason. And I'm about to prove it. Bar by bar. Interview by interview. Tattoo by tattoo. Every single receipt. Nothing gets skipped tonight. Nothing gets softened. Nothing gets sanitized. This is your girl Nova. Nova against the noise. And if you don't peep what's cooking and what's crumbling in real time, then somebody sold you the ticket without the seat. When the shepherd finds the wolf's teeth, everything gets rewritten. Claressa Shields all posted up, glowing, feeling herself, moving like a champion should, getting the flowers, getting the roses, getting the cheers, getting the applause, while he's over there hugged up with jealousy. What? What did he hug? Yeah. Hugged jealousy too tight, dude's whole chest caved in. You for real? You for real right now? But if you don't peep what's cooking and what's crumbling, he's letting the champ walk into rooms she was never supposed to walk into. Thin line between muse and puppet. And from where I'm sitting, Papoose has been ventriloquist ing through Claressa Shields since the tape started rolling. Ever since he stamped that Avengers Assemble tattoo across his skin, the tattoo that supposedly grants membership into the hero's faction. Remember in the movies. Remember how you needed the badge, the mark, the emblem to even step foot in the compound? This is Papoose knocking on the compound door. Do you love Claressa Shields, or are you just trying to swipe a membership card into a universe that never called your name? Which one is it, big dog? I'm confused, and I know the audience is confused, because that ink glows louder than his last 12 albums combined. Wild business, right? Zoom in on that tattoo one more time. Zoom in on the arm. Zoom in on the ink. Because this is not a love story, family. This is a real estate deal. Papoose put a permanent stamp on his body, not because he adores Claressa Shields on a molecular level, not because the woman rearranged his heart, but because the ink is a business card. It says, I am close to the champ. I am adjacent to greatness. I am a resident of the compound. Please let me in. Please recognize me. Please make me relevant again. Because without Claressa Shields on that arm, we are all pretending we don't remember who he is. And that is the tragedy of the whole situation. However, you let the champ overstep her lane, and I got receipts. Every 24 hours, the disrespect climbs another rung. Roll the tape. A fan pulled up on Claressa Shields and said, straight up, tell the truth. You were studying one of Remy Ma's verses in the locker room before the walkout, wasn't you? Hold up. Hold up. She said, and I quote, I don't listen to no trash music. I love that. And better yet, better old trash. What? Hold up. Hold up. Now Remy Ma's washed. Now Remy Ma's bitter. Now Remy Ma is she. Just last spring, that was somebody's wife. Remember what Claressa Shields told the whole radio audience? That's not somebody's husband. Okay. Papoose filed for divorce. Y'all hate to say that word, but it's the word that's on the paperwork. He filed because he's serious about me. Okay. So I'm not with somebody's husband. Okay. And if you're gonna call him her husband, make sure you call her his wife. Right. Right. You were respectful last quarter. She was his wife. She was the ex. Now it's she. Now it's the trash rapper. Now it's the whole demolition derby of pronouns. Walk soft, champ. When you put ketchup on the dog, you also grab the bun. When you dress a man up as still married, you also dress the woman up as still the wife. You were loud and technically consistent. Now you're loud and completely off script. But at least you weren't taking cheap shots at her name. You were keeping it clean. Then he stamped that Avengers Assemble tattoo, and Claressa Shields flipped like she rebooted her whole operating system, because Papoose pushed that button on purpose. Willie pushed that button on purpose. It's time clock time, baby. He wound the spring in her jaw. Let's go. That's the message. Because Claressa Shields, my bad, Clarence Shields, my bad, the champion known as Claressa Shields probably needed a signal that Papoose really has her back. She's seen the whispers. She reads the internet. She's 2 rooms deep in that big, beautiful house, and she knows he's not fully hers. He had to detonate that tattoo just to wind the spring in her jaw. Like, maybe he does love me. Maybe he really does. And look, I want to be clear about something before we go another round. I am not attacking Claressa Shields, the athlete. Claressa Shields, the athlete, is a monster. Claressa Shields, the athlete, goes into any weight class in the sport and cleans out the division. Claressa Shields, the athlete, broke down doors that had been welded shut for a century. Nobody, and I mean nobody, is coming for the resume. The resume is untouchable. The gloves are untouchable. The Olympic hardware is untouchable. What I am telling you tonight is that Claressa Shields, the person, is being handed a script every single morning by a man who cannot write his own hits. And she is reading that script into every microphone that will hold still. And that is the problem. That is the entire problem. That is the whole reason we are here tonight. Ever since that moment, Claressa Shields sits down at Shannon Sharpe's table and it's open season. Remy Ma is a bum. Alycia Baumgardner is a bum. Amanda Serrano is a footnote. Katie Taylor is an afterthought. Everybody who ever laced a glove is a bum, except the mirror. What did she say? Say it back. Look, you know you're beating these chicks when they all start teaming up. And then he is teaming up with a rapper, the hater. Right. Now Remy Ma is washed. Now everybody's washed. And every syllable of that soundbite is Papoose. Every consonant. He's puppeteering through her. He loves the rap game. Claressa Shields knows better than to call Remy Ma a trash rapper. For one, Remy Ma has been in the industry longer than most listeners have had a driver's license. Calling her trash is walking into your own funeral. People are gonna start staring at your bars sideways because those Dr. Seuss couplets ain't clearing customs. You for real? Let's talk about the layup, though. Let's talk about the fight itself. Because before we get any deeper into the ventriloquist act, we have to acknowledge the elephant in the arena. Claressa Shields did not just fight anybody last weekend. Claressa Shields fought a woman with 26 losses on her record. 26. Not 2, not 6, not 16. 26. And 10 of Claressa Shields' own so-called world titles are vacant belts. 10. Meaning nobody was holding them, meaning nobody had to be beaten to acquire them, meaning somebody handed them over like a Costco sample. 10 out of the collection. Read that again slowly. 10. That is not a resume stat, that is a shopping list. And yet, from that scoreboard, Claressa Shields has the audacity to look into a camera and describe Alycia Baumgardner as a bum? Alycia Baumgardner, a legitimate, undisputed champion in her division? You for real? On what timeline does that math add up? On what planet does that framing survive a 5-second Google search? Roll clip 2. Roll it. This is Remy Ma explaining, with actual precision, in front of an audience of millions, why we know Papoose is ventriloquist ing through Claressa Shields. Watch. I wish he paid 90% of the bills. We probably wouldn't even be here. Not only did this man not do right by me, that's where a lot of his animosity comes from. Every time we did interviews, people would say, yo, y'all rap, who's better? And it's her. It's her. It hurts him. He really wants this. We're talking about a brother who literally sat down and dropped an album every single month for a whole year and nobody purchased it. And here I am making a lot of money on old work. Sometimes I pop out with a verse. Sometimes I do a feature. And every time, he burns a little hotter because I have the demand and I have the leisure not to grind. And financially, I'm still okay. Talk your talk. Talk your talk, Remy Ma. That's the tape. Ain't no other way to slice it. He's jealous. The champ knows better. The champ knows that. That's like somebody strolling up to Claressa Shields and telling her she can't punch. Unless you've got the resume, unless you've got the belts, unless you've got the miles, you don't fix your mouth to say Claressa Shields can't box. Same thing in reverse. Claressa Shields, even as a listener, even as a consumer, even as a random Spotify account, she doesn't get to say Remy Ma's music is trash. That's Papoose. That's William. That's the ghostwriter behind the ghostwriter. He's been racing her for a decade and she's been lapping him for 2. He's mad because Remy Ma sells out arenas from old catalogs. Fat Joe himself said her old catalog pays her rent. Papoose can't even get old catalog to work because there's no catalog to recycle. You for real? As a grown man? On a national broadcast? Wild business. Roll clip 3. Remy Ma at a festival. Sold out. Rocking a stage bigger than most rappers have ever seen. Meanwhile, Papoose is filming himself rapping in a parking garage. In a parking garage. I'm not making that up. Nobody can double park because he's blocking the ramp. Y'all don't hear the horns behind him? Hey, brother. Brother. You know who I am? This is Papoose. I don't care who you are, my dude. I'm trying to reach floor B2. He's holding up traffic, rapping into a phone camera, and security is trying to remove him. Hey, you gotta clear the ramp. No soliciting. You for real? And she's out here calling Remy Ma washed. Wild business. What is this parking lot bar slam? Sideways panhandling in a stairwell? Cardboard cutout freestyles between a Prius and a fire extinguisher? Because hold up, every one of his songs has a payment plan baked into it. Every single one. If I was down, would you spot me 50,000? If I needed it, would you send it? When the lights went out, could I come look for you to cash me out? I need 2 nickels to rub together. Could you give me 2 quarters so we can live forever? It's sideways panhandling through 16 bars. Every single time. I was gambling, I was in debt. If I needed you, could you cut me a check? And you're sitting there thinking he's spitting metaphors. Nah. When the beat cuts, he says, you liked that. Can I hold a couple thousand? What? What? You liked the bars, right? Right? Nah, family. You weren't listening to the bars. You were listening to a Kickstarter campaign for a 4-time. You were listening to a GoFundMe with a hi-hat. Every one of his tracks has a fundraiser stitched inside it. Down on our luck, we need it fast. Would you spot us, brother? Come on. Come on, brother. He's letting Claressa Shields overstep because he needs the noise. He needs the traffic. He needs somebody's arena-sized ex-wife to still be relevant enough to argue with, because his relevance ran out 16 mixtapes ago. Y'all folded the flag on K. Scott, you might have to fold it on Claressa Shields, too. Because Claressa Shields has already written some checks with her voice that her fists can't cash. Not one. Every single one is gonna bounce. And in the other direction, you don't want Claressa Shields going 12 rounds with your ex-wife when your ex-wife was the same person out here protecting your name. Roll the next receipt. Sorry, guys. That's my husband still. That's my daughter's father. Y'all can't do nothing. Yes, he was absolutely wrong. He was dead wrong. He was out of pocket. If y'all want to do something behind my back, whatever. But not on my watch. And that's how I behaved. That's how I handled all of it. Through all the tormenting, all the secrets, all of it, nobody could touch him. Why? Because he's still my husband. He's still my daughter's dad. He's goofy. But he's my goofy self. Look at that. Look. Look at that with your own eyes. Claressa Shields will never say something like that about anybody. She would have let the entire building collapse depending on the situation. She would have handed the man over to the wolves and taken a selfie in front of the wreckage. Remy Ma stood in the gap when Papoose ran off into the night in a mask like it was Halloween. She said, that's still my husband, that's still my daughter's father, y'all can't touch him. She said that in public. She said that on record. She saved him. Repeatedly. And here we are, same man, same tattoo, and Claressa Shields is out here calling that woman a bum. You for real? On what earth? On what timeline? Wild business, brother. Wild business. She said, and I'm not paraphrasing, she can't even go back to that venue anymore because of how her side was moving that night. In a different state. Picture how the fans in New York, the cousins, the uncles, the day ones, the people who've been waiting patiently in line for one clean shot, picture how they feel. If it wasn't for Remy Ma, we'd be watching a very different documentary right now. And now, instead of gratitude, Papoose is letting Claressa Shields empty the whole clip. Watch. Mark it down. The moral of this whole receipt is simple. Don't let your girlfriend's mouth cash the checks your body can't clear, Claressa. Not one of them. And I got another one for you. Let's talk about the venue. Let's talk about ticket sales. Because Claressa Shields told the internet that she sold out that arena all by herself. All by herself. No help. No assistance. No co-signers. But content creators pulled up the morning of the fight and found seats. Empty seats. Rows of them. Empty. So who exactly was moving those tickets? Let me tell you who. Because on that undercard, Claressa Shields had Big Lex. She had Ray J. She had Orlando Brown. She had Tekashi. She had Floyd Mayweather in the front row like a lighthouse. And if any of those names get removed from that card, we don't sell half of that building. We don't sell a quarter of that building. We sell a corner of that building. And she's out here talking about drawing power? You for real? You for real right now? That is not a draw. That is a group project. That is a carpool. That is a circus tour with the champ selling the popcorn. And who is her promoter again? Sallita Promotions. And who else on Sallita Promotions? K. Scott. The exact fighter she took the belt from. In-house shuffling. In-house arithmetic. In-house belts moving from one arm of the company to the other and calling it a title fight. In what other sport does that count? In what other sport does the same company own both fighters and both belts and call it a legitimate championship? A boxer who had 5 fights on the record, 5, and had held her belt for 6 months. 6. That is not a championship defense. That is a company retrieval. That is Sallita reclaiming its own inventory. And Claressa Shields is calling everybody else a bum. You for real? Roll another one. Alycia Baumgardner. 0 losses at her weight class. Undisputed. Belt stacked. A fighter who begged publicly for a shot at most valuable promotions rosters, for a shot at real names, for a shot at real money. And Claressa Shields calls that a bum. Alycia Baumgardner is not a bum. Alycia Baumgardner is a real one. Amanda Serrano is not a bum. Amanda Serrano is a first-ballot future Hall of Famer. And Claressa Shields, sitting at the biggest table in the sport, is throwing all of them under the same bus because a man with an Avengers tattoo told her to. You for real? Because look, it's one thing to be caught up in entertainment beef when the checks are clearing. It's another thing entirely when you're using a champion as your microphone because your own catalog can't move. And Claressa Shields is overstepping, and she's ventriloquist-ing his lines whether she knows it or not. And it's only gonna get worse. Every 48 hours it climbs. I'm telling you. The proof is stitched into the tape. She could have torched Remy Ma on that radio interview. She could have gone nuclear. She didn't. She said, say his wife, say the ex. That was measured. That was respectful. Now, post-tattoo, post-walkout, post-ventriloquist, Claressa Shields is completely out of order. And I blame the Avengers tattoo. I blame the compound. Because in my head, Papoose is standing outside the gate right now. Excuse me, can I come in? Hell no. Hell no. Take yourself back to the bunks, brother. You know what he's asking. Can I get access? Hell no. My wife has her passport here. Hell no. Yo, Papoose is outside trying to sneak into the compound. Hell no. You know how many actual heroes we have in this building? I would exile him on the spot. He isn't even a member of the faction. He's a walk-on. Exiled. Escorted out. Denied at the door. Removed by security. Returned to sender. And there is one more thing before I let this one breathe. One more thing. Because I have been sitting on this, and I have been waiting to say it out loud. Claressa Shields is going to look back at this exact chapter, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and she is going to be embarrassed. Not because I said it. Not because the internet said it. Because the tape does not lie. The tape never lies. The tape she is helping to record right now, the interviews, the sound bites, the tattoo pageantry, the parking lot freestyles, the vacant belts, the borrowed audiences, every single frame of it is going to be there. Waiting. Playing back. On a loop. When the tattoo comes off. When the checks stop clearing. When Papoose finally admits he was using her platform as a bounce house for his own career. And Claressa Shields is going to have to sit with the fact that she took shots at Remy Ma, the same Remy Ma who literally stood in front of the wolves to protect the man she is currently trying to marry. That is a chapter you cannot rewrite. That is a chapter she is writing tonight, in real time, in ink, with a smile. So walk soft, champion. Walk soft, greatest of all time. Walk soft, undisputed. Because when the ventriloquist packs the puppet up and puts him back in the trunk, the puppet is left holding the microphone alone. And the microphone always tells the truth in the end. This is your girl Nova. Nova against the noise. And Claressa Shields, walk soft. I'm telling you, respectfully. You're playing with fire out here. You're using somebody else's voice to fight your own battles, and the second the ventriloquist steps back, you're gonna be holding a mic that doesn't know your name. That's the wrap on this one. Drop a comment. Tell me who's really pulling the strings. Is it Papoose whispering the script? Is it Claressa Shields freelancing her own downfall? Or is Remy Ma about to end this saga with a single verse that erases the whole month? Tell me who won the round tonight. Tell me who took the L. Tell me if you think Claressa Shields writes her own quotes, or if that is the Papoose typewriter clacking behind the curtain. Say it back to me in the comments. Because the next reveal is going to make this one look like the warm-up. I've got another tape. I've got another interview. I've got another arena receipt. And it is going to close this whole case shut like a courtroom door. That's the wrap on this one. Walk soft, champ. Walk softly. And I'll see every single one of you on the next receipt. Bye.